Okay, thank you. We're now here with Joe Collins. Joe Collins is running for Congress. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for being here today. Could you first of all tell us what district you're in and what communities are there, and then maybe a little bit about your campaign?
So our district is the 43rd district, California's 43rd district, and that consists of half of Inglewood, South Central, which would be the Westmont, West Athens, and half of Watts area. We have Westchester Airport, the Hawthorne, Gardena, Torrance, West Carson, Lomita, and the Harbor City.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the issues that are important to your campaign, that are important to your constituents, and the things that you've been talking most to people about during your campaigning?
Yeah, so a lot of issues that we talk to people about or people talk to us about, it has to do with homelessness. I think homelessness is one of the biggest eyesores and one of the biggest problems people see that is wrong with our community. And also, we can talk about the lack of jobs. We could talk about the lack of opportunities, the poor education, and the infrastructure, taking care of our small businesses. What we've been able to do with our campaign thus far is talk about issues that are important to people. I understand that a lot of people want to get directly to the federal issues, but for an area like South Los Angeles, which 43% of the people live below the poverty level, the national issues doesn't really work with the people who live in our communities. So we've been very, very effective in talking about issues that affect people. We have been running a very strong, a very positive campaign. We've raised almost $5 million thus far, and we've given a lot of money back to the community through backpack drives, back to school drives, our food pantries, which we host, 3 or 4 times a week throughout the week in the communities. We do our hiring fairs. We gave over 250 jobs right now, hiring on the spot to people who live in our communities. And so, especially through the COVID-19 shutdown, it's been an absolute blessing and pleasure to be able to work with both sides of the spectrum when it comes to politics as well as taking care of the people. We've driven violent protesters out of the South LA area, and we was able to work with the community as well as the law enforcement on those efforts. We understand that people want to protest, but protest peacefully and then go home. And that's the message that we've been preaching, and the message that has resonated throughout the community. We are winning. We are beating Maxine Waters right now. And I'm proud to say that she is frantic, and we kind of have her on the ropes. We look forward to seeing what she's going to do next, but we have a few weeks until election, and we look forward to winning.
Okay. So tell me that again. What is the percent under the poverty level in your district?
So 43% of the people who live in the district live below the poverty level. So that's almost half of the people who live in our district. It's very bad. Part of the reason why is because of lack of representation. A lot of people tell me President Trump hasn't done a lot for our community, and I can say that this is true. But the reason why is because the corruption on the local level is so high. I mean, city council members are utilizing opportunity zones, trading them back and forth with developers who would, in my opinion, pat their pockets the most. But the benefits of the bills that the president are passing is not getting back to us on the community level. The criminal justice reform, we know a lot of people in our community has been disparaged by an unjust criminal justice system, which our president is working on fixing. But because we have so many Democrats who don't like the president, those bills, the information is not getting back to the community. So we've been trying to work with the criminal justice reform on a level that we are right now, where we can get that information disseminated to everybody. But we've been working with Washington, D.C. on getting investigations together to try and see the corruption in the city council. I know everybody knows that the one city council member is already indicted, and we look forward to more indictments coming down. I'm very excited about it because we need those bills in our community so we can rebuild our community, get jobs back, incentivize quality businesses to come back to our communities. We need it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. You've talked about jobs and how important it is. What could Congress be doing, especially in your district here in California, to help do something about that 43% number? That's a shocking number. That's amazing. It seems to me that that's a real problem. What would you do, and what should Congress do?
I think what Congress should do, especially on the leadership level, is try to learn how to work together. Right now, everyone having a competition who's the best right and whose right is more right than everybody else's right, instead of just saying, you know what, this is what we need to do in order to move our country forward productively. As a member of Congress, what I would do is I would use the influence to bring quality jobs back, work with major businesses that we have in our district. We have a huge aerospace industry, which we've been very grateful to work with. And so we would work with the aerospace industry to provide jobs where people don't necessarily need degrees or anything like that, through journeyman and apprenticeship programs to get people hired. I will utilize opportunity zones to incentivize major companies to come back. But one of the most important things that I've been talking about for a very long time is we need someone to stand up and fight the state of California to get us back in line when it comes with the federal constitution on taxes, and also remove some of the regulations and restrictions when it comes to developing. We all know that the cost of development is high, and the people who are developing in our communities, they take that cost and they disseminate it back down to the people who are going to live in that development or do business in that development or subsequently purchase that development. And I don't think that's fair at all.
Okay, got it. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit. You're in an urban area. We're going into a time where we're seeing a lot of civil strife, and there's a lot of discussion around the role of law enforcement, the role of police, and maybe how that should be reimagined, some people say, or maybe reformed. What are your views about law enforcement and law and order?
I support the law enforcement, particularly because we all know that there's a high volume of gang violence, crime, drugs, sex trafficking, whatever you name. It's in the southern LA, and if we don't have law enforcement, then guess what? These things run rampant within our cities, and then we end up with another war zone within the inner cities, and that's one thing that we have to prevent. You can call it reform, you can call it reimagine, but one thing that is definitely noted is that the issues that we have comes from the bills that have been passed. Like, you have the 3 strikes law, you have the crime bill, all of which were written by Democrats, and they use this to incentivize the law enforcement in states to arrest people on an assumption of a crime without even having evidence. I know because I read all 338 pages of the crime bill, and I was highly disgusted. As a member in Congress, what I would do is I would get that crime bill removed, because it's an unfair bill, and it incentivized through block grants and funding incentives to states to incarcerate people for absolutely nothing. We need somebody to get back to the fairness. We need somebody that's going to fight for the Constitution. And then on another note, a lot of training that the law enforcement gets says that people who live in inner cities are more than likely going to be gang members. And so we got to get that social training back into the training from the police departments. A lot of law enforcement, unfortunately, a lot of people are actually scared to come to the inner cities. I know when we first put our office in South Los Angeles, our first of 3, people used to say, well, we're not coming there because it's dangerous. Well, I can actually understand where they're coming from, because you don't see too many people outside of Blacks and Latinos in the inner cities. And so our goal to make our community safe starts with working with the law enforcement, but also working with the local community, so we can come to some type of medium when it comes to mutual respect and community policing. I think it's been very effective what we've been able to do when we work with the law enforcement, but also work with the community. I get phone calls all the time. And even right now, we pray for the law enforcement, the 2 officers that were shot, the sheriffs down in Compton. But, when a young man was killed by the police, we were there for him too. And I think building positive relationships is one of our platforms. And it's going to be a staple in moving forward, but we need someone who can be level-headed and work with both sides and not get radical about it.
Got it. One of our earlier speakers, he talked about the state of education in California, and he posited that that's one of the reasons for some of the problems, why it's hard for people to have upward mobility. Do you agree with that? Do you see that in your district? Is that something we can fix?
Yes, absolutely. And he was spot on when he said that. Our district's education system is ranked number 48 out of 50 states. And this is an absolute problem. We have a 77% graduation rate from high school, and we have a 22% graduation rate from college. So if these young adults are not graduating from high school and they're going to college and they're not graduating from college, then it's almost like we're setting our young people up for failure when we need to be setting them up for success. Which is why I'm proud that in a few weeks, right before the election, we're going to be launching our plan to reimagine and our education system and show how we're going to start rebuilding our high schools. I want to give our students and our young adults something positive to look at. We want to create an atmosphere, an environment where they can feel safe, but also where they can use their the education in order to increase the value in their life and their family lives. I want our students to be proud to go to school in South LA. I want our students to be proud to go to school in California. And I think this is something that we can all agree on and work on at the same time.
Okay. All right, we've only got a couple minutes left. So in closing, I guess, importantly, if people want to find out more about your campaign and learn more about how they can get involved, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, my website is joecollinsforcongress.com. You can reach me via email, public@joecollinsforcongress.com. Social media, Facebook and Instagram, Collins for Congress 43, and Twitter, Joe Collins 43rd.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for your time.